Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to our YouTube channel's Nath Online Classes. Today, once again, I am Vidyasagar is present in front of class 10 to discuss subject chemistry with all of you. So, please like the channels, share, and subscribe it. Today, I am going to explain about carbon and its compound. So, in the previous class related to this chapter, I have explained some important characteristics of carbon. Today I am going to discuss about the formations of bond, how the formations of single bonds takes place. It was discussed by me in previous class, and today I am going to discuss how the formations of double bond takes place. So please concentrate on the video, try to understand it in well defined manner. So formations of double bond, for examples, oxygen molecules. Formation of oxygen molecules takes place with the help of sharing of two pairs of electrons. That is, the formations of double bond takes place in the formations of oxygen molecules. So look at here, oxygen, the orbital configurations of oxygen is, in the first orbit there are 2 electrons, and in the last orbit there are 6 electrons. So we can say that here there are 6 electrons for oxygen atoms represented by Lewis structures, Lewis notations. Each oxygen atoms contains 6 electrons, so they have to share 2 electrons for each oxygen atoms, and by sharing 2 electrons it forms oxygen molecules denoted in this manner. Understood? When both share 2 electrons, then this oxygen atoms complete its 8 electron in its last orbit, and this oxygen atom also complete 8 electrons in last orbit, and this oxygen atoms also complete 8 electrons in its last orbit. That's why the formations of oxygen molecules takes place, and when 2 electrons are shared, then the formation of one single bond takes place. Here 4 electrons are shared by 2 oxygen atoms. That's why the formations of double bond takes place. Also, you should remember all these things and try to explain in your own language, so that you can get more and more understandable things from it. Now look at how the formations of triple bond takes place. For it, we are going to explain the formation of nitrogen molecules, how the nitrogen molecules formed. Look at the orbital configurations of nitrogen molecules. In the first orbit there are 2 electrons, and in the last orbit there are 5 electrons. So how can nitrogen elements complete its octet? Here it is, the possibilities of donating or gaining the electron is negligible. So it has to share the electrons. So here nitrogen has to share at least 3 electrons with its participating elements. So the 5 electrons of nitrogen shares by the 3 electrons of other element nitrogens. Here first nitrogen atoms, here second nitrogen atoms, both shares 3 electrons and formed as Lewis structure in this way, and the formation of 3 bond takes place, and the formation of nitrogen molecules also takes place. It is nitrogen molecules, and here the 3 electrons share by this nitrogen atoms, and 3 electrons is shared by this electron atoms to complete its own octet. And after the completion of octet, the sharing electrons formed a single bond another sharing electrons forms double bond and another sharing electrons forms triple bond. So the formation of three bond takes place during the formation of nitrogen molecules. Understood? So you have to remember these things. Now I am going to discuss some more formations of bonds. Please concentrate on the video. Now students, look at the formation of bonds not only takes place between the similar atoms, but the formation of bond also takes place between two dissimilar elements. Let us look here how the formations of bond takes place between two dissimilar elements. As for example, formation of water. Formation of water means H2O. Formation of H2O. How the formation of H2O takes place? Here we know the valency of hydrogen, that is the number of electrons present in the outermost shell of hydrogen is 1. So we represent here single dot for 1 electron and here single dot for 1 electron. Here two hydrogen atoms participate in the formations of these Lewis structures of H2O. So here and the number of electrons present in the outermost shell of oxygen atom is 6. So it requires 2 electrons to complete its octet and it requires only 1 electrons to complete its octet. Then how the formations of bond takes place? To complete its octet, it has to share its electron with each others. So sharing of electrons takes place in this manner. Here 1 electrons of oxygen has to be shared with the single electrons of hydrogens. Has to be shared with the single electrons of hydrogens and forms these types of structure. As you know, this structure is called as Lewis structures and the formation of water molecules takes place. Understood? Now the formations of ammonia. How the formations of ammonia takes place? Here 3 hydrogen atoms are taken and 1 nitrogen atom which has 5 its valency, 3 its valency. So the number of electrons present in its outermost shell is equal to 5. Now the each electrons of nitrogen share with the single electrons of hydrogens and forms these types of Lewis structure. Here 1 electron of hydrogen is shared with 1 electrons of nitrogen. Here second 1 electrons of hydrogen is shared with the second electrons of nitrogen and here 1 electrons of hydrogen shared with the third electrons of hydrogens. These 2 electrons left. These 2 left electrons is called as what? Lone pair of electrons. So here the formations of Lewis structure of ammonia takes place and the formations of ammonia molecules takes place. Ammonia molecules takes place and it is shown by this structural formula. This is a structural formula of ammonia. You should remember this is a structural formula. A structural formula. Okay. Now look at the formation of methane. This is very important compound. You have to study about it in the upcoming classes. So how the formation of methane takes place, please I am going to explain about it. Here explain has 4 electrons in its outermost shell, so it cannot gain 4 electrons to complete its octet or it cannot lose 4 electrons. The reason is known by you. why it happens? So it has to share 4 electrons. So and hydrogen has only 1 electrons in its orbit. That's why we have taken 4 hydrogen atoms. Since each electrons of hydrogens is shared with 4 electrons of carbon. Here first electron of carbon is shared with the electrons of hydrogens, and here second electrons of carbon share with the electrons of hydrogen, and here third electrons of carbon shared with the electrons of third hydrogen, and here fourth electrons of carbon share with the electrons of fourth carbon, and this structure is formed as the Lewis structure of methane, and the molecules of methane is shown by the this structural formula. So this is the structural formula of methane, and what we have see here, what we have to look here, the formations of 4 bond. So formation of 4 bonds takes place while the formations of methane takes place. So here with these examples we are able to observe how the formations of bond takes place with the different atoms, either it is similar or it is different. So please try to remember this. Now let us look about formations of double bond with 2 different atoms or 2 dissimilar atoms, as for example formations of carbon dioxide. Now look at the formations of carbon dioxide molecules. How does it takes place? Please, here I have written the atoms of carbon. Here carbon atoms, it has 4 electrons denoted by dot, and here 2 atoms of oxygen are taken. So carbon plus 2 atoms of oxygens are combined in this way and share its electrons. That is shown by Lewis dot structures by using Lewis notations. As you know about it, there is no need to explain about it much more, and in this way the formations of bond takes place. Here 6 electrons of oxygen required 2 electrons to complete its octet, so it share its electrons with carbon. 2 electrons of carbon is shared with the 6 electrons of oxygen, so that oxygen can complete its octet. Now another 2 electrons of carbon is shared with another 6 electrons of second oxygen. Here second oxygen, here first oxygen. So with the help of these 2 electrons of carbon, oxygen able to complete its octet, and in this way there are formations of bond takes place, and with the help of 2 electrons of this oxygen, carbon completes with the help of 2 electrons of this oxygen and 2 electrons of this oxygen, carbon also complete its octet. So both compounds get advantage by sharing of its own electrons, and the formations of double bond takes place because here 4 electrons are in share, and also here there are 4 electrons are in share. So double bonds takes place with these oxygens, and with these oxygen double bonds also takes place. So formations of carbon dioxide molecules takes place. So these are the Lewis structures and explanations about how the formations of carbon dioxide takes place. You have to practice about it by writing it on your copy or where you want, and always remember these structures. This may be asked in the examinations held by CBSE. Now, depending upon the formations of bond, what we have look. Depending upon the formations of the bond, there are following 4 types of compound. Here I have written the types of compounds and examples: monovalent compound, divalent compound, trivalent compound, and tetravalent compound. Monovalent compounds, example of monovalent compounds such as hydrogen, chlorine. Formations of hydrogen molecules takes place with the help of monovalent compounds. Formations of chlorine molecules takes place with the help of monovalent compounds, and formations of oxygen molecules takes place with the help of divalent compound, and formations of nitrogen molecules takes place with the help of trivalent compounds. And so oxygen is called as divalent compound, nitrogen is called as trivalent compound, and methane CH4 is called as tetravalent compound. Since here the number of bonds included in the formations of methane is 4. And one thing you have to note, this is very special for you: lone pair of electrons. Some electrons are left during the formations of bonds that does not participate during the formations of bond. It is not included in shading. So the left electrons from shading is known as lone pair electrons, and it is also always calculated in pairs. So it is called as lone pair of electron. We always calculate it as a pair. Understood? As for example, here 4 electrons left, so 2 lone pair of electrons, 2 lone pair of electrons remaining here. So these are the explanation about the bond. In this video I am going to stop my explanations. In the next video I shall meet again with some new interesting explanations. Till that I want to say goodbye. Thank you.